Hello everyone. Welcome to. I'm not gonna say a short video because you already know that's not possible, and you will have to endure like 40 minutes. I don't know how long it will be, but you will have to watch it entirely if you want to know what I think about the altcoins. The perspective is pretty much the same. I still think we are far from the kind of big alt season we all expect and we saw in the last cycle. That's something that I've been thinking for quite some time because of charts, and I still maintain that. First of all, let's take a look at the Ethereum BTC, because as you know, if Ethereum has to run for altcoins to do as well, this is one of the main charts. We expected the high time frame bottom only to be here, not before, because it was the bottom, as you know, in the last cycle, and even in 2016 was already showing some kind of support area right after this initial breakout here. So why do I believe BTC dominance has stopped? That's something I have already explained, because it was last cycle, it topped at the same time Ethereum BTC had already bottomed, even though it then took quite some time for the alt season to come. Again, as I explained in the last video, I don't think it has to extend that much. We can have some kind of pump like we did here and not linger for a long time around this area, right? But the thing is, first we need to see this bottom, and again it happened in the, for now, top of BTC dominance, even though it's climbing back. It did even try it sometimes in the last cycle, getting close, but never really crossing or surpassing it. Again, I don't really care if it does, right? Because we have the ETF now. It's not only money rotating from altcoins to BTC. I explained that BTC dominance can increase because there's more money coming to BTC than into altcoins, right? From the outside, new money. So BTC dominance can increase while altcoins keep pushing. In fact, that's why I said that altcoins have been doing much better than in the previous cycle, because Total 3 and others, as we have seen, and I will show you later again, they are way higher than they were in the previous cycle at this stage, right? So that means they are not doing bad. They are just being like underperforming compared to BTC. But if this is the starting point from altcoins to, or even higher, for altcoins to start pushing hard, just imagine how high we can go. We can get pretty much into the alt season exactly when we get into price discovery, which could be insane, right? So again, top for BTC dominance, bottom for Ethereum, double bottom with a lower high here, and the bullish divergence we saw after oversold levels. Can we see the same thing? I don't want to see Ethereum rolling that hard. That would mean that it really underperforms. All these weeks suggest that this is a toppy area for Ethereum, and I will show you now that even structurally speaking, it's not a random area, right? You can see here, we draw this horizontal line. It is just not a random area to top locally. Stochastic is also suggesting that it might be time for BTC to outperform. Again, it doesn't mean Ethereum can't push. And if let's hide this for a second. If we open the moving averages, and I show you this is the weekly, I'm gonna use the 50. Remember, for BTC, if the 50 was the support for the whole bull run, I posted long ago that then, by the same kind of measure, Ethereum BTC had been in a bear market since for the whole cycle, right? Then it found the bottom, pretty much like the same cycle, even though the price structure was different. It didn't start its own bull run until the 50 was reclaimed. First the bottom, then the reclaim. So you can see that it's still far, far away, right? Can we have another push lately? RSI is very, very healthy, very far from any kind of overheating. You can see here in the top of 2021 top and the first top here in August, RSI was 83, and in 2017 RSI was like a double top, 86, 87. That's why Ethereum BTC is a key chart for our altcoin, even for bottoms, reversals, the time to go, the time to exit. It's very, very important. And if I add the 20, we can see that it was first rejected by the 20 after finding its bottom, and then reclaimed slowly, and then battled the 50. You can see that the full reclaim pretty much, even this was the COVID crash, pretty much here. COVID crash, no, it was earlier, sorry, it was here. This was the last, like a fake out here before the real alt season started, right? So it was rejected by the 20, and that's why I say that structurally speaking it's an important area, but it's also been rejected by the 20. It's not time yet. The good thing is if it holds around this area, right, holding this wick as a bottom, this area, which is the one that it's holding right now, that's great for attacking and flipping the 20, which is pretty much very close to current levels. Perhaps that could be Ethereum at 2.8k, which is something that needs to be reclaimed for continuation. So we are not that far for truly confirming this is the bottom and the reversal, but that means, in my opinion, it doesn't mean it has to outperform for such a long time before the alt season, but I think this is mandatory. So that's why I believe this is not the weekly cycle for the alt season. Even though we all want that, I'm also fully invested in altcoins at this point, but I don't see that happening yet. The thing is, we need to be patient, and as long as data suggests that, even though if it takes longer, because this could be the prices that people, the tourists that will come near the top, would be like jealous for not being able to buy that because they weren't here the same way people weren't here when prices were this low. Right? Let me hide a little bit of this because I want to show you the importance of perspective. Remember when Ethereum BTC bottomed, right, together with BTC dominance topping, total 3 was dead. You can even also add others because it's pretty much the same. They were both dead. It wasn't until Ethereum had been outperforming for long that they started waking up, that the Ethereum reclaimed the moving averages that I've been talking about. But look at this now. They are not dead. This is the bear market bottom for them. And pretty much in the last cycle, they were in a whole bear market for 2 years, just until the last impulse. And we can see they've both been printing higher highs and higher lows this whole cycle. You can't say they are dead. They're in a pretty good position. Again, I compared the local top here, 2017, how far they were and how close they are now to their respective tops. It's not that far, 30 something percent for total 3. I think it's 80%, something like that for others, right? So by the time Ethereum BTC reclaims the trend and says, okay, we're back, definitely back, by then total 3 and others would, seriously, they could be like almost at price discovery, if not already in price discovery. That hasn't happened yet. Yes, we don't have much data for altcoins. There are 2 cycles, and I don't even really like the previous one, the 2017. But it's something that looks way better than last cycle. As I said in the last video, this Ethereum BTC, this, in my opinion, has been a controlled demolition, and it's not a coincidence. This is the bottom now. So I think this has been great for people to think that Ethereum is dead, that all the promise, all the ultrasound money narratives, all that stuff that hyped people back here for a year and a half, something like that, they lost it all that confidence here, only to just find support again here and now change the narrative. Is it the staking and the money inflow from ETF because of the staking, blah blah blah, whatever? It's just high time frame support. And if we take a look at Ethereum, which goes, it's important for the Ethereum BTC chart, we see this is the inverse head and shoulder, the perfect rejection at 2.8, which is an important level. So I didn't expect anything other than rejection, especially because this price action, even though this could be just I said, this could be either distribution or reaccumulation, right? Because RSI was losing strength and price was distribution or reaccumulating. That's difficult to say sometimes, but I think that since the bottom here, the RSI looks way healthier, right? So it's a higher high compared to this higher high, lower high, higher low. Yeah, it looks like reset in terms of converges with the price. So if we remove this for a second, we can see that this is a bullish pennant forming for Ethereum, right? You can draw it more or less here. This is a continuation pattern, right? So this accumulation here is not random. It's of course above the 2.5k, which is something important. But if we open this is the daily, if we open the EMAs, we see that it's above the 200 and the 50. And the last time that happened, it wasn't without creating a base. As I said in Q4, it was weaker back here because it was just a sudden spike above them with no base. I mean, yes, you could argue you can have this. You have this base. Of course, this is a range with some kind of base, but not above moving averages, right? And to me, moving averages are important, and I'm gonna show you why. So it was like an impulse. It got rejected at all-time high. Wasn't very, very strong. That's why people thought this Ethereum is very weak this cycle. Then we have this, in my opinion, deviation trap, this range, because this was pretty much the bear market bottom range. Was another deviation here, the accumulation in the bear market, pretty much. The first range broke to the upside, and this could be a deviation forming this inverse head and shoulder. And we have reclaimed. First, you can see the coiling be below the 50-day, break above, and now it's not a coincidence that it's resting above the 200. I mean, too much confluence. 2.5 above the 200, converging, the 50 is converging now. And if I use let me remove this for a second, the simple moving average, we can see that now it's getting rejected by the 200 simple. But they are all converging, so this could take longer. This could be a huge coil to push back at least to 3K, 3,300, something like that. I think this is great and very healthy for Ethereum, right? I'm not using oscillators now because I'm not trying to time this kind of move. I want to see the trend for Ethereum, and I'm not gonna trade the short term for this. But moving average wise, I think it's really, really good. We can see here in October it was below, broke above, and it retested for quite some time. It was the end of October, not much time actually. Then it came and retested the 50. Again, the short-term kind of momentum average that I've explained several times, and we had a big impulse. If we go to the previous cycle, it's even better, which is why I think it was way, way stronger. It's not a random base. It's a consolidation above all the moving averages for quite some time. This was April 2020 to July, slowly climbing together with all the average, especially the 50. Push, fake outs, but still holding the whole trend. This is what would allow us to have such a big impulse. Boring for many people, loading for people who follow the technicals. Like as I posted in one of the recent videos, the big moves build in the shadows. I mean this. So you can see 2017 lost the moving averages, tried to reclaim one, couldn't. Like the first leg for the fans of Elliott waves, you can see, you could say this is the first wave, second, I don't know, and then push, whatever. But the thing is, this first impulse, right? The accumulation wasn't as big as this one. COVID crash, reclaimed, reaccumulation, holding. This was a very positive sign, right? For Ethereum. and then the outperformance. And let's compare to BTC dominance. It topped already here, which is something we have seen in this chart. That's why we can't only analyze one chart in isolation to have a whole perspective, right? Because if you only base on that, Ethereum chart doesn't really tell you that BTC dominance was dropping because Ethereum was already outperforming. You can say that Ethereum itself wasn't, but compared to BTC, it was already, right? So it is reclaiming the moving averages, which is really good. If we switch to the weekly, we can see, I'm going to remove this for a second, that it's above the 200, okay, which is necessary for a bull run. We can see here the reclaim in 2023, the 20 holding here, and the round for Q4, we lost it here in this kind of V-shaped recovery, the inverse head and shoulder, and now it's above the 20, but getting clearly rejected here by the 50. But again, they are all converging, which is something great to then push and be above all of them. It's only the 50, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, the 50 is the only one above. So this is coiling. This is great for Ethereum and for everything we want to see. Again, let's take a look at the weekly back here, even though this cycle, not all of them were available yet, but we can see that the 50 was reclaimed here slowly. May. We have seen that the daily was around April when it started reclaiming the trends, the moving averages, and now here is the real reclaim, and we didn't lose it until the cycle ended, right? Again, this was a fake out, we couldn't hold. All this chop tells me that we are far from that true outperforming part of the cycle from Ethereum, right? So again, it aligns with the idea that Ethereum is recovering, is doing what it should be doing to outperform. Again, we are pretty much at the same point here as in Q4, but the good thing is you can see perfect range between the 50 and the 20, but the range was bigger, and now it's coiling. You can see by the wicks how all the body candles are in between those, but this is, if this were like Bollinger Bands, this is insane tightness that will probably allow for such a big move, probably to the upside. Again, if we saw this move from the 20 here all the way to all-time high without real much coiling here, like we did here, it was bigger, they were very tight, right? And here it looks like the same. So perhaps this is the start of the weekly impulse that gets Ethereum to all-time high. But this is the weekly, so it could take a long time to get there, right? Again, one of the reasons I believe the old season as we know it still far from getting here. Again, I'm not saying it couldn't happen earlier. I'm just saying the data suggests that we are far from it. Look, here in March, right, when we thought that these were holding just a week below, we are holding, this is a high, a low, blah, blah, blah. Then we have the capitulation and the recovery, the fast recovery. So this kind of weekly candles, we could have one of them, right? But for that, I believe Ethereum BTC has to at least reclaim this 20 first, and perhaps we have a candle that breaks above the 50. We retest it, and that's the outperformance time for Ethereum. Again, look at this bottom, how it took longer than this. It was like kind of a V shape. So we don't know in what form it will act, but we spot it because this area, right, was a high time frame support, was also this very oversold area. So there are signs that we can pay attention to. We even formed a bullish divergence here, but it doesn't have to happen. But again, I think we are still far from that. And if we open our dear friend BTC dominance, I pointed out this rising wedge, that you could say it's being invalidated, or you can redraw it. I'm not gonna do that because that would be like modifying the charts just to fit my bias, and that's something I don't want to do because in in the long term that could be very harmful. So what I see is BTC dominance is really bouncing from the 50 day perfectly. We have this fake out, same way we had the fake out in Q4, but that was a big rally that got into these very oversold levels, and this drop almost got there, right? We can see that pretty much it's the same kind of RSI levels from which it okay. Okay, for some reason I have to reload this. It's been happening lately. So we can say it's pretty much the same RSI level. And it wasn't as oversold here, but it was really, really oversold. The thing is, we want to see this as a bounce from oversold levels, but a lower high. I would like this Fibonacci to hold, but again, Ethereum BTC is suggesting that this should be the top. Bottom for Ethereum BTC, top of BTC dominance, no matter how much it chopped. The thing is, will it repeat? I'm not sure. That's my bet for now, because I've seen BTC, as I explained several times. Okay, let me change the color for a second. BTC has been climbing, right? You can see the top here for BTC dominance. BTC has been climbing since then. So there is a divergence. Lower high, BTC dominance, and BTC making a high. So there's a clear divergence. Before they were pretty much pushing at the same time, so making higher highs, both of them. That's why I believe it's relevant. And Ethereum BTC is showing that, yes, it is relevant. It's very close to the top, but again, this move is not a small one, right? Could be chopping and pushing again, yes, sure, but the way the RSI is developing compared to price, I don't think this is a very bullish kind of action for BTC dominance. Again, it doesn't matter, because we can see it's been chopping people out. In fact, in the 4 hour, it's even clearer, right? We can see the small pushes, various divergence, small drop, no divergences, right? But another push, another various divergence, another drop, right? Again, we'll see the same thing again. A small push with a various divergence, and now if it crosses the 4 hour, as I said, perhaps we see another push down. Will it be a retest of the moving average? I don't know, but or just the Fibonacci. The thing is, this is chopping people out, right? We go to the weekly. We can say that it's crossed again the MA, something we didn't want to see for an immediate action for altcoins. It could really easily roll over, right? Again, Q4 we had this spike before above the MA. We just was a wick, and then it rolled over, right? But it couldn't close above, so it was a lower high. Will we see something like that again? Well, if we want our alts to run, we have to see that. But perhaps BTC again has to run first. Remember that by the time it was rolling over, it was like in pretty much the last 2-3 weeks, when BTC was already showing the various divergence on the daily, which is something we haven't seen yet, right? We open the daily for BTC. It started forming the divergence here from November, mid-November, the 22nd, the 11th, 22nd, and we go to BTC dominance, right? Let's just open the daily to be more accurate. We can see, let me go back, it was the 11th, more or less, to the 22nd, right? Which was a bearish divergence for BTC dominance as well. That's why I said technicals were saying that this final push from BTC dominance was fake. And then we had the rollover, small one in terms of time, 20 November, 20th to, around the 10th. But BTC was already hinting that it entered the final daily cycle within the weekly cycle. Then it finds the top in the weekly cycle, and the weekly cycle ends in the new bottom. We had the first daily cycle with a reset, the flush into the 50-day perfectly. Another week here, another retest. And now we might enter that second daily cycle, printing a divergence, right? So perhaps we do something like this. We go to 70 something and price is way higher and we start building the divergence, right? That coincides with BTC dominance finally rolling over and losing the EMA to print the leg down for altcoins to catch up. This is the 50 that's holding. I've been saying for quite some time that I don't see BTC dominance going below the 200-day moving average, this impulse, and the higher it goes, the more confident I am about that. It's around 61.83 now. If I open the simple moving average, sorry. Yeah, if I open the simple, okay. Let me just remove this. I'm not gonna use another one. It's around 61.20, something like that. I don't see it going below. Q4, this was a fake out, right? But as we have seen in previous cycle, it really has to lose both, to lose all the moving averages, especially the 200, for the old season to really start. This was the top for BTC dominance, the rollover, the confirmation for the old season, the chop here. But again, by the time you have the confirmation, altcoins have run a lot, because it was early January when people remember the posts are the like the collage, all the collection of bearish tweets for altcoins in 2020, 2021. It was like at the first days of January, around here, like right at the top for BTC dominance. It's incredible. So that's what happens when you don't follow technicals and just your emotions and your impatience or excitement. So by the time we get the confirmation, altcoins have run a lot. That's why I think it is better to be bored and tired now of waiting than chasing higher, right? So then we see the bottom formation, the recapture in the bear market, and then the new bull run, right? This has been the BTC bull run, BTC dominance bull run. And again, it's great to compare it to total 3. Completely dead until it decided to roll over. You can see here that by the time it rolls over, it's only then when altcoins push. And we can see from the bear market bottom how they have been pushing, even though BTC dominance has been pushing relentlessly, right? So you could say, okay, but this is right now a lower high, yes, high low. So these could be a huge, let me draw this more or less, huge compression for total 3 forming from late 2024. And in this kind of compression in an uptrend, what do you think will happen? What do you think that could happen? You could draw something like this, right? Even like this if you want. What do you think could happen? Yeah, expansion, right? So I think it's doing way better. You can see that. I'm gonna remove a little bit of this. So you can see it's doing way better than the last cycle, way better. In fact, this is the top. Again, we are very close, but this is not the time for altcoins to run. We have clearer perspective here for total 3. This was the previous cycle. This was the 50 with the weekly. By the time they start going serious, ending their bear market and slowly climbing, remember this is the top. This is where people were already tired here, but they had already been climbing quite a lot. The 50 was reclaimed here back in May 2020 after the crash, the COVID crash. This bull run, please take a look at this, because it's being above, like BTC, not even Ethereum. Ethereum has been in a bear market compared to BTC, and you can see total 3 has been pretty much like BTC, perfectly retesting. There's a deviation here, and it's holding the 50. And now it's probably being rejected by the 20. Yeah, something like that. It's fighting to regain the 20 around 840, which is key Fibonacci, a level that I've said is very important, which is this one, the 2022 dead cat bounce. Seriously, it's doing very, very well. The only thing we're doing is just for now a retest like we did here, retesting the 50, pretty much doing the same thing before expansion. Back below, it wasn't even above here, above the 50 here in 2023, right? So yeah, there was a base, but not above the average. And then we have the 6 month run right into 89 RSI on the weekly. So if we do something like that now, I'm not saying it has to happen again, exactly. Let's say we have something like that. Exactly right into this Fibonacci 1382. Why not? Why not? Into very overextension. Okay, let's see a smaller push. Like 100%, something like that. Yeah, little slightly above 1236. So this could be the 2 Fibonacci level extensions that we could pay attention to. And of course, if we repeat either this or this, we would break all-time high. With BTC dominance, remember, BTC dominance still climbing. And this move could be just BTC dominance going back to the 200-day moving averages, as I said, around 61%. Imagine we see this kind of move, right? And then what we do is retest the all-time high. And then the final move of the cycle is pretty much in price discovery. Is that crazy? Because BTC, right, after breaking here, the all-time high in 2024, where did it come back to as a bottom? Previous all-time high, pretty much. Would that be crazy for altcoins to do the same? It was like a 100% move, right? What did BTC do from the bottom? I don't think that's crazy, right? Why would it be? I'm not saying we're going to 5 gazillion market cap. I'm just measuring previous. This was stronger. I'm gonna measure this one. It all looks very good. Do you really know what 100% move for total three? I don't care if it's others. Others is pretty much the same, right? It's a little bit weaker because again, this is the moment it signs. It's in the last part of the cycle. But the RSI, everything looks good here. This is the daily, but if we take a look at the weekly, okay, I got to reload. If we take a look at the weekly, it's fighting the 50, the same way it did here, and probably also the 20. Yeah, look at the 50 and the 20, pretty much the same level. Again, tightening, converging, which happened before moving higher, getting rejected by the holding, the previous resistance here, right, and pretty much local top, holding as support now, retesting the MA. Seriously, same thing that happened here. I don't know. I'm not cherry picking. I'm showing everything, and most of the things I'm showing is just in real time. I haven't really checked this all, and then I decided to make a video because okay, I have very bullish things to tell you. It's just I've been tracking this. Okay, let's go to the previous cycle. Chop, chop, chop. We decisively break above when April, pretty much like total 3, and BTC dominance had already topped, but it was weaker. It took some time, like relentless, like lower highs, lower lows for BTC dominance for this to move up. It's been moving up without that here. Remember that, because I think it's fair. Even these coins that normally are the weakest at this stage, right? It's just, yeah, from now more or less 100% move. You could say it's a lot, but here, when it started reclaiming this, like 400% move from previous all-time high. And this is the weakest altcoin chart. By the time it got like to like 100% move, more or less, it was already like the previous months before the alt season, with BTC dominance dropping for quite some time. Now it's still climbing, higher highs and higher lows. We want this to be the change. Again, I think everything looks great. It is all, I posted yesterday, all you see as a boring price action, it's compression building. Compression building here. Oh my God, all this 2023 summer, it's over. It's all big pockets controlling the market, blah, blah. Look at this. Did you buy this? Did you get bought because no alt season this cycle? Right? Because if we take a look at BTC dominance from monthly, I'm gonna show the weekly because I think this is the chart that I've been showing, right? From more or less the previous cycle. Again, this is just guidance, right? From the bottom to the top, more or less 1085 days, more or less. Here, pretty much from this bottom to the move here. If I go to more or less the same, it's like August, right? Could it be the top? Could this be the weekly cycle, the end of the weekly cycle push into the weekly cycle top? We said that we could top following the cycle theory by the end of July, early August. That would be the end of August, the end of the correction for BTC dominance when we enter this corrective move, the weekly cycle corrective move after this weekly cycle into the last push of the cycle. And remember, this hasn't really pulled back decently for some time or whatever. No, it's just been a kind of a blow of top move, control, the same way if Ethereum BTC is a control demolition. So even just by measuring with the previous cycle, you shouldn't be saying that this season is not over. I mean, there's not going to be an alt season. It's aligning perfectly with the last push. In fact, the cycle theory says that around November, it should be the cycle top. It will follow the 4-year cycle. It should be in November. Let's say November, let's say mid-November, like 12 bars, something like that. What do we have here for the alt season until the top in May? 18 bars. 18 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever. You could even say in November, whatever. Is it really that crazy? It's still aligning with the 4-year cycle, with the cycle theory, with all we are seeing of Ethereum BTC still having to catch up, with Ethereum gearing up very strongly to push, at least break into all-time high, which is necessary, with BTC dominance still trying to push, right? With oscillators looking like this, unable to push higher, and the weekly divergence, this could be this extended divergence when it is flat, pushing into that. I don't see that as a crazy idea. We can see that here, but pretty much the same kind of action on the weekly. You could say, yeah, you can't go that far back. I'm not saying these has to play, but you had these and a small drop. Okay. You have another push and it's unable. Okay. Yes, it can keep climbing. It doesn't mean it has to roll over immediately. But you remember when I said that the longer the divergence, the bigger the impact. And this is the weekly. This is a huge divergence from August 19 to December, a year and a half. This is from October 23 to June 25. Pretty much the same. Let's say August. Pretty much the same. Let's measure it date-wise from this potential start of the divergence. Let's see what we get. 74 bars, 74 weeks, 87. Still not that crazy. Let's say it starts in August, as this suggests. 95 weeks. Is it that crazy? I don't see that. You had the first divergence here. You could say that. Well, not really a divergence. This first one, yes, had a small push, but a push below. We didn't even have that because price-wise, let's say, this is like a 12% move. This cycle, all we've had 5, 6, and the biggest one, Q4, 10% move. Yeah, one a bit lower. Yeah, 10% move. We haven't even had this, let alone this. This is like a 18% move. Again, by the time this rolls over, it could be huge. That's all I'm saying. If we go to the monthly, remove all this. Yes, this is why I say stock RSI is not really the main indicator, because it can chop around, can stay overheated for a long time here in September 2018 to October, like a whole year, while still pushing higher. That's why RSI is the main indicator. We had in Q4 a week that it ended in just a retest of the MA. The moment we lose it, we had this first loss, and there's the second one for the alt-season. We haven't lost it this cycle. In fact, the bear market bottom was just a confirmation that the bottom was in for BTC dominance, right? Printing a bullish divergence. This is a monthly, remember that, from the April 21st to the bear market bottom. This is huge, right? And then we have the confirmation, the reclaim of the MA and the whole bull run. So if you see such a big divergence, as I said again, the bigger the divergence, the longer the impulse. So you can see a year and a half of a divergence here with the double bottom, triple bottom if you want. Of course, we're going to have such a long outperformance, such a long move. It's been building for quite some time. I mean, the bottom we started in May, hinting, then in January 22, and then in November, right? This is a big bottom formation. Bullish divergence forming. Of course, we're going to run for so high, but for now, we are finding some resistance for now at around this area, which acted as resistance and support and sometimes, yeah. So could we have such a big fake? I don't see that yet, especially when RSI is still a little bit overextended. Yes, we haven't had a BTC dominance so high RSI wise, so this is like uncharted territory. But perhaps stock RSI is starting to say that this is not the time for BTC dominance to keep outperforming for much longer. We'll see. Again, it can roll over slightly, but at this stage, with Ethereum BTC having found its bottom, it hasn't happened this cycle yet. That's why reclaiming this is key, both because here it goes rejected. It reclaimed in a kind of similar move this MA, but I said it was no man's land. That's why I don't like this kind of no man's land here. This is no real support for Ethereum. There's no big support here. So this is no man's land. For RSI is pretty much the same. No real support. You could say this, no real support. This is real support. So we have to reclaim both to confirm that yes, BTC dominance has stopped and it's about to roll over. About means in this monthly chart, like a few more months. Why not? But again, I think everything is shaping for an incredible push for altcoins. And I'm not saying it has to, but all charts are showing that they are way stronger than last cycle. They are making people think that this cycle we won't have an alt season. It's all about ETFs. That Ethereum is dead. It's all about BTC. Their cutting is always bearish. The economy is breaking. Is that how tops form? Because last top was about rocks being sold as NFTs for millions. Was about Elon being a troll in Saturday Night Live with Doge to the moon. It was about fortune favors the brave. Big, like 2-minute advertisements, Super Bowl ads. What else, man? What else do you want to say? And in 2020, it was all about crypto has failed. BTC is not acting as a hedge as inflation, whatever. Always the bearish news at the bottom, always the most bullish at the top. So just based on sentiment together with charts, do we really think this is the top? A double top. Only people who are glued to low time frame and who only pay attention to one chart, or who are just, as I say, a victim of themselves because they got attention. One of those one-hit wonders, right? I got one chart good, one good call like a year ago, and now everyone follows me because I have a chart that points to something that will happen in a year. So I have a full year of people following me, buying my hope. And now when their theory is invalidated, they start making new ones because they want to stay relevant. So I start making stupid calls that no one else is doing, so I get the attention again, right? I don't know. Yes, people could say, what about the various divergence? Is this a yeah? But if you say that, you enter. The key with RSI is how far back do you go? Because you could enter in an endless loop of bearish and bullish divergences. This could be a guide. But again, when you enter in a new weekly cycle or monthly cycle or whatever, of course, it's going to reset and there will be a time when it climbs. So let me ask you something. For those that call tops because of the various events, let's say this. This is a drop. This is the new weekly cycle. Did you say, okay, yeah, let's say you are in this week. Man, there's a bearish divergence. What about that? It's about previous all-time high. This is not even close. This is very weak. Really? So the period when it starts climbing, you start invalidating it. So you start a race, and 5 minutes in, you start saying, "Man, you're too far from the finish line. I mean, you're not gonna make it, dude. I just started." You start judging the end of the cycle, the end of the race, just by the first 10 minutes, because I'm not already there. I mean, you have to. This is not us drawing this kind of lines all the time, right? Is this cycle top? Let's say I can draw it whatever you want, right? To make it fit my. Okay. Is this the end of the cycle, the end of the bull run already? Is this? Is this? I don't know. You could say whatever. This? Flat? Extended? Where is the divergence? I don't know. You could make it fit your bias. That's why it depends how far back you go. So the moment we find a top, we'll start looking for a bottom, right? And when I saw this, I didn't say as a bullish divergence for the weekly. I never use that. The daily, yes, because it is closer. It is within this weekly cycle entry. So I need to look for strength within the weekly cycle. That's the daily we saw. To find the strength for a new move back. All I look for was a, let's say, bull run bottom for RSI. And I say, okay, this should be support. Because it was in 2023, it was in summer, it should be here. Fake out, and it was. But I'm not looking for a weekly divergence because you can enter. I mean, remember, oscillators are bracketed between 0 and 100. Price, apparently, with the devaluation of fiat money, it has no cap. So let me tell you something. How the fuck? Allow me that. Do you expect these bracketed oscillators to fit all the time with price? Because you will always find bullish and bearish divergences for an asset that will probably keep going up and forever, making higher highs and higher lows. So at some point, your divergence won't work. You have to select the time frame, and that's the tricky part, right? Because what do I say? Okay, bullish divergence from here to here. Is this? I don't know. You have to combine many other things. right? Because people could say, okay, this is clearly the downtrend. Okay, but even if you draw this, you miss this top because you're expecting this to hit just because one random line. And if you expect this one, you have to then wait for this here to get here. This is the monthly we are reading above 70. So where do you draw the line? You make this channel up in 2 minutes. Do you draw it here? Do you draw it here? Do you draw it here? Because if you draw it here, suddenly it doesn't match. And now I modify this and make it this, whatever. And okay, this fits my bias. I say this is a deviation, and off we go. And now go to Twitter and post this huge alpha that I made in 30 seconds. This huge alpha, by the way, didn't get the bottom, right? Yes, you could say it got this top, but I am drawing it now that I know what happened. So I can say this is the huge alpha. If price gets here, that's bad. That's not how you do it. Because again, I could have drawn it if I was serious. Let's say just the candles. I missed this top. Let's say just the candles. What is this? So this whole bull market is all of a sudden a bearish retest? What is this? So again, don't try to overanalyze. Have a combination of many indicators, not many, I mean some indicators on moving averages, all that work in Confluence, and then you develop your own strategy. If it were that easy as drawing a couple of lines, come on, everybody would make it. Why would the sentiment be so bad on X if it's just about drawing a couple of lines? It's not that easy. So again, we have seen in a very long video, because you deserve that, because you are such trolls, we have seen that we're in a good direction, but still, in my opinion, far from the huge alt season that it looks like it could really happen. And it could be way bigger than last cycle. I'm not talking about Fed cuts. I'm not speculating about if we are in such a tightened condition, fiscal condition. Imagine when no, I don't have to imagine. I'm just looking at charts, and charts suggest that we are very good. If you've been following me for months, you know that I haven't been so bullish until recently, until I started seeing the bottom for Ethereum BTC and for how everything is shaping in the high time frame, weekly and even monthly. I don't care if BTC is dropping below like 0.5% now. High time frame, zoom out. High time frame is difficult to manipulate. It's way stronger. You can have in the daily, this is the weekly. How many people got their hopes shattered here for Ethereum? And all it's doing is compression between the moving averages. So again, zoom out, stick to data, block the noise, and in my opinion, bet on high time frame, because the bigger moves happen in high time frame. There is an old saying in investing that the dead guy, the man who's dead, is the best investor, because it doesn't sell frequently, right? And it plays the highest time frame there is. So again, in my opinion, there's nothing to worry about. Key levels are holding, and we just have to wait for everything to unfold. We said that back in the local bottom in April. Let everything unfold. So far, so good. So why stop doing that now? I'll see you probably at all-time high. Hopefully it will be soon. So until then, take care. See ya.